Good morning, and thank you for being with us. Tomorrow marks 4 weeks since President Donald Trump took office. We've seen a flood of changes since that first day and a lot of new and some controversial candidates making it into his cabinet. Here to talk about that is Connecticut Republican Chairman Ben Proto. Ben, thanks for being with us.
Eric, thanks for having me again.
So here we are just about a month in, give or take. Just what's your reaction watching from Connecticut? What's been happening in Washington?
I think it's great. It's interesting to kind of watch the Trump derangement syndrome overtake a lot of people. But what's most interesting to me, Eric, is for the first time, really in my lifetime, a candidate promised to do certain things, became elected, took the oath, took the office, and is doing the very things he promised to do, which I think has got a lot of people concerned because they don't know what to do with that, because they've made a lot of promises that they haven't kept, primarily the Democrats. So I think what you're seeing is their concern of that people are now doing what they promised to do, and they're not. So I'm happy with what's happening. I think the president's moving in the exact direction he said he was going to move as a candidate. He's taking the country in the exact direction he said he was going to take the country, which is why he was elected on November 5th of 2024.
And there's been some polling, some CBS News polling that said that the public, the nation, largely agrees with your view that he's doing what he said he would do. But like you said, no one's necessarily done it, certainly not with this speed that we've seen. And that's led to some chaotic things that have happened, some executive orders that came in and had to be rescinded. There was a big moment where they said, aha, we found $50 million in condoms to Gaza, and then they had to say, well, not that Gaza. So does that, are there some self-inflicted wounds that happen, and is it just because of the speed, or do you wish maybe they took things a little slower?
You know, I think there obviously were some things that were done that had to be fixed, and they're being fixed. But I think ultimately, I think the people wanted this to be done and move quickly, and he's doing that. And when we start to look at some of the things that he has done and some of the appointments that he has made, which some people call controversial, I think are going to prove to be very good appointments. I think ultimately, at the end of the day, he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. He's making the changes and implementing the changes that he said he was going to do. And time again, Eric, we've heard politicians running for president, I'm going to cut spending, I'm going to fix the problem, I'm going to get rid of this wasteful spending. And it never happens. We just create more of it. He's actually found savings and has begun to implement and remove those wasteful spending programs from our budget to save taxpayers money. So I think the president's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, and that's what the American people wanted.
Much of the concern, and you use the very politically charged Trump derangement syndrome, which President Trump may have coined or certainly uses frequently on social media, much of that comes from the fact that this is being done by President Trump with the assistance of Elon Musk. There's a Republican-controlled Congress. Why not? He has the ability to run all these things through Congress and likely could get them approved. Why not take that step so that people won't say he's acting like a monarch or that Elon Musk is having undue influence on this presidency?
I think he's going to use the Congress as he moves forward, but I also think that he also knows, as we all know, that Congress moves like molasses at times and is very slow in a lot of what it does because it has procedural policies it has to follow and under its rules, which is the right thing for Congress to do. I think the things he's implementing right now are the immediate things that the American people wanted: the protection of the southern border, the stopping the flow or attempting to stop the flow of fentanyl across our borders, to engage trying to stop the wars in the Middle East and in the Ukraine and Russia, putting in place programs that are going to cut spending or find all that wasteful spending, and giving America back to the people as opposed to the politicians. Recently, as you know, the buyout that was offered to federal employees, over 75,000 employees took that buyout. That's a reduction in force. That's a savings we're going to find. So I think, again, it gets back to Donald Trump doing exactly what he said he was going to do on a timeline he said he was going to do. Because remember, he said, on day one, I will do these things. Well, on day one, he did those things, which is what the American people voted for, and he's doing exactly what he promised to do and what the American people want. When you have 70% of the people saying he's doing what he promised to do, I think that's an indication that 70% of the people are in agreement that this is why they voted for him. This is what they wanted him to do.
One thing that he said he would do on day one, repeatedly, was lower prices. And I don't think we've seen that yet. And you feel free to agree with me. I don't have every single price, but I think a lot of our viewers would say they haven't felt that yet. Right. Do you think that that's a fair statement? And why hasn't he done that? Because there was so much criticism of everything's more expensive under the Biden administration. And I'm not aware of any reports that there's been big relief in prices at this time.
I think we're going to see prices come down. I think you're seeing the stock market is responding positively. I think you're seeing businesses are responding positively to his programs and his executive orders. As a result, I think you'll begin to see changes in pricing structure. Pricing structure is one of those things I think most economists will tell you that doesn't happen overnight, and that we're going to see those reductions coming, and we're going to see things becoming more affordable. A lot of that also is driven by a lot of state policies, and as you know, here in Connecticut, our single biggest driver is probably our electric costs, and the Democrats in the legislature are simply not addressing that issue. They're pushing it off. So I think when you begin to see changes also at the state level that are going to be implemented as a result of the president's policies, we're going to begin to see pricing structures move.
Certainly. And many things take time, but it was a day one promise, which is why I raised it. There's a lot of Democrats. Senator Murphy has said it's a constitutional crisis. There is now a rapid response task force in the House. Rosa DeLauro, a Connecticut congresswoman, is one of the co-chairs of that. Why do you believe so many Democrats are so alarmed by what they have seen?
Because they lost. They don't have a message. They don't have a plan. They don't have a vision for the future. They're trying to figure that out desperately. They can't find one. With all due respect to Senator Murphy, there's no constitutional crisis in this country. Our Constitution is sound, is being followed, and will continue to be followed. It's worked pretty well for us for the last 250 years. I think it's going to work pretty well for at least another 250 years. So I think Senator Murphy and Rosa DeLauro and the rest of the Democrats are fear-mongering. They're trying to drive up the fear among people, and it's just simply not there. The president's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. There doesn't seem to be any constitutional overlays that are being played with. A lot of the lawsuits that have been brought, again by William Tong, who has decided that he should be doing things in Washington rather than in Connecticut, which is unfortunate for the people in Connecticut. But I think ultimately these are not constitutional challenges as much as they are, we don't like what you're doing and we want to go to the courts to see if we can overturn some of this.
Only 30 seconds left, and we mentioned a lot of cabinet appointments, and you said maybe using the word controversial was wrong by me. What's your view of what's happened with the cabinet so far? Just 30 seconds.
The president has appointed the people and the jobs he said he was going to appoint. These people are going to take these jobs. I think we're going to see agencies running in a much different and a better way than they have in the past.
Well, it's. I think we said before we came on camera here that we could probably talk for an hour about many of these topics. We appreciate you being here. I think it's a super fascinating. I think history is going to look at this time period, whatever side of the ideological spectrum, as a very, very interesting time in history. And I appreciate you being here to give us the Republican take on it. Ben Proto, thanks for being with us.
Eric, thanks for having me again. Always enjoy coming down the show.